Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the I'm Doing Great podcast. I have a surprise. It's not so big of a surprise, but look, hey, Gina's here. Hey, Gina.
That was a surprise?
Yeah, now back to me. Guys, before we get started, I would just like to read an ad that is also something I'm really passionate about. It's from our sponsor, Digital Homestead, okay? Are you looking to escape the torrent of toxic and inappropriate content that seems to flood traditional social media platforms? I know Bo does. Where are you never more than a few clicks away from sin? Do you wish there was a safer and more private place for your family to connect and share media online? A place that you can feel comfortable inviting grandma to join? Look no further than Digital Homestead, the family-oriented social media platform that prioritizes privacy and security. With Digital Homestead, you have complete control over who sees your profile and posts, creating a safe and welcoming space for your family to share and connect without the worry of unwanted content like dumb e-girls twerking or violence or just pure immoral behavior. So say goodbye to algorithms designed to keep your eyes glued to the screen and say hello to a new Digital Homestead for your family on Digital Homestead. Sign up today at digitalhomestead.app/doinggreat and start connecting for free. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show today. Me and my pimple over here are glad that you're here. Now you won't stop looking at it. That's why I'm going to cover up this side of my face. But we have our great guest in the studio today. Guys, give it up for my favorite guy, Bo Dittle. Yay, Bo Dittle. Woo!
Thank you guys for having me on.
He's back.
I'm back.
He's so back.
Oh, you know who else is back that we've gotten some questions about? Gina's back. Oh, wait, Bo. Gina's back. Yay. Everyone's like, where's Gina? Where's Gina? I'm like, don't worry, guys. Gina's coming.
Here I am.
Here you go.
I am here.
But Bo,
Yep.
let's talk about some stuff.
We have so much to talk about.
Can you talk a little bit about, okay, so what are the trenches? Because the last time we had you on, you were doing these videos on your own.
Yes.
And then a couple months ago, you were like, hey guys, me in the trenches. So talk to us a bit about that.
Yeah, so when I started doing Man on Street, I was like, this isn't just average Man on Street stuff. What I'm uncovering is the trenches of America. So why not call it the trenches and film the trenches in all of my videos? So that's where the trenches came from, and it's a show name instead of Bo Dittle. It's just an alternative. So it's a second channel, but I have huge hopes for it. Just exposing what the left is doing every day. So that's the trenches.
Bo Dittle, can you explain something that I wanted to ask you about? So the trenches, one of the videos, I think it wasn't the church. I can't remember which one, but it has like over 250,000 views.
Yes,
like,
it's
doing pretty well.
Valentine's Day Massacre is what I like to call it.
The Valentine's Day Massacre. Question, are you able to monetize that?
So right now it's not monetized, no. I strictly rely on people funding me, supporting me, sponsors, advertisements. I feel like when you get monetized, the YouTube people, they kind of monitor you more. And even though I've been approved for it, I've not went through just because I feel like I'm going to get an extra eye on me. I might change my mind later, but as of now, no, I'm not making anything off it. It's just for love.
You don't even monetize the videos?
No, not on the trenches. On Bo Dittle, I am. So I kind of have the best of both worlds. But right now, the trenches is, everyone's loving it. So I'm going to keep posting on there as much as I can.
I know someone who's loving it. Mm-hmm. Gina.
I do love it. You can't monetize anything these days. I haven't monetized. They haven't let me monetize anything in 3 months.
What I love about, speaking of monetization, I don't know if you've noticed it, you probably have on Instagram, they give you those bonuses. It's like, you're welcome to earn bonuses.
Yep.
And then I try to earn on bonuses.
You're not eligible.
Like, you're not eligible.
You're not eligible, yeah.
But then a week later, they're like, you're eligible for bonuses again.
I don't know if those are bugs or something like that they're just not working. But also they're taking away real bonuses. I just read that. They're taking that away.
Yeah, I mean, me from everyone?
Yeah. I think they're getting rid of that.
In my opinion, as long as my content can stay up, if they want to demonetize me, say I'm not fit for advertisement, I don't care. Just don't take me down.
Just don't take
That's
the
all I
content
care
down.
about.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about the money. I'm not in it for the money. I hope you guys see that. It's strictly about exposing what the Democrats are like. So just don't take me down. You can keep your money.
Are you on TikTok? Because
Yes
I know
and no.
they've taken you down like several times on TikTok,
It's
right?
well over 15 at this point. I have
15?
Yeah. I'm on TikTok. Like 180K, but I don't use it.
Right.
Just because it's not
even worth it.
It's not
they
worth
just take you down.
So,
yeah.
Yes, I have an account and I'll post every once in a while, but not really.
Here's the question, Bo Dittle. Do you think that
Keep calling me Bo Dittle.
I love it. I'm going to. Do you think that this would seem like an interesting program that YouTube did? So let's say content like yours that is probably not advertiser friendly to, let's say, big corporations or something like that. But for advertisers who did want to spend dollars on targeting specific groups of people, like let's say conservatives, like more conservatives watch your videos than liberals. So wouldn't that be interesting if YouTube was like, okay, this video is able to be monetized and is able to receive ads. It's just from this specific group of people. Like if people were willingly able to, let's say, volunteer their advertising dollars for specific channels, I think that could be cool.
No, it would be, but I don't think they give conservatives that opportunity. You know, they don't like the quote unquote speech that we're providing. So every opportunity they can to cost the conservatives money, they're going to do that.
It's so weird though, because the majority of viral videos that are on YouTube within culture or politics come from the conservative side. So it seemed like there would be some sort of incentive to monetize that.
You would think so, but it's like go woke, go broke. You know, all of the woke corporations, sure, they have the money to fund it, but they don't get the numbers. I mean, look at all of these liberal events. None of them sell out, but then look at conservative events. You're seeing stuff sell out 24/7. We have the majority, but what we lack is money. And the Democrats, the elites, they're all funding the left side.
It's like they don't even they care more about catering to the progressive agenda than they do about making money. It's like the same thing with movies like The Woman King and all the remakes with the women who are the superheroes. They don't make any money.
Right. What made a lot of money this past year? Movies like Top Gun. Yeah, movies like that.
I still haven't seen it.
It's good.
Is it good?
Yeah, it's good. Bo Dittle, have you seen Top Gun?
I don't watch movies. I'll be honest.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
You.
Remember when he was on here last time he said his favorite movie was Grown Ups and people got upset?
Yeah, I just don't watch movies.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't blame you.
So, Bo Dittle, listen, talk to us about your latest sort of endeavors in the street. I've been paying attention to them. Here's the thing. I need to watch your videos minutes at a time. I can't watch them all at once because I get upset.
Oh,
You're
me too.
killing my watch time.
I get angry, dude. Like
you're killing his watch time.
No, seriously. Sorry though, but
it's such a black pill.
It really is such a black pill. And the thing is, because you invited me to a protest, or was it yesterday you went to a protest? I can't remember what it was.
I went last night to one.
Right. If I'm there, I honestly don't want to talk to these people. I want to fight them. I just want to fight. You know what I mean? Like it's not worth my time to be there and just kind of be like, well, you're gay for thinking this. No. Or you're dumb for thinking this. You're low IQ. You're unbased. You're not really rational, or you're not even logical. I just want to hit people because I think that would send, a bigger message than just kind of like, trying to own someone in a, let's say, like a debate or even a discussion. But I don't know. How do you get through that? I know that obviously religion and conviction and faith in the Lord is big in trying to stay calm in those sorts of situations. But are there other ways that you remain calm other than not going to prison?
Yeah, you just take like a big old Xanax before you go?
So in the very beginning, I was a lot more heated. I was a lot more angry. I've said this many times. Everyone knows I'm a huge fan of Owen Schroyer. That's my boy. Mm-hmm. Anyways, he was more aggressive, and so I wanted to take that approach. But being an instigator is a bad look. And so I try and be calm and let them do the instigation and do the aggression for me because, at the end of the day, it just makes them look bad. And I know, first off, you would get charged. But second off, they're the ones that look like they're intolerant. And so it just proves their whole like tolerant left, love is love. It just proves them wrong. And I just put out a video on Instagram, and the video it's now over 500,000. It's almost 600,000 views. And that video, in the video, there was a guy saying, "We're the party of love. We're the party of acceptance. And I feel like you're in the wrong place to be here." He said that. And then in the next clip, it shows me getting assaulted like 5 different times. And I just kind of take it because, let them expose themselves. Mm-hmm. Even though I know I could put them all on the ground if I wanted to, it's just not worth it.
Yeah, there's that strategy of just letting them show us who they really are. It works. That's what Matt Walsh did with What Is a Woman? Yeah. He didn't go in guns blazing and try to argue. He just asked questions. And you know what else has been going viral that does the same thing? The Whatever podcast. Yeah. That guy, Brian Atlas, he does a good job. Have you seen that podcast with all? So it's kind of like a fresh and fit. He's basically this guy in Santa Barbara who it looks like he's renting a little room at a WeWork.
He started with like prank videos.
Yeah. And so now he sits at a table and has probably like 5 or 6 girls who come on and they talk about dating and
They're
relationships.
all like sub 20 IQ. Like,
they're all like OnlyFans girls. They talk about finding sugar daddies, but he just lets them expose themselves. He doesn't even fight with it. He'll just like ask them questions. He'll be like, what do you do? Like, and they're like, I try to look for sugar daddies all the time. And they just expose themselves. And it's like the same strategy. You don't have to go in aggressive because if you just run a camera, they tell you who they are.
Well, that's what, just sorry to interject, Bo Dittle, but that's what Michael Knowles went on to that show, and he was so quiet and very calm and not instigating anything, just responding to what they were saying. And just now I kind of understand. I wasn't saying that before, like, I just want to fight people, like just trying to project a tough guy persona, which I'm really not. But I feel like in that case where tensions are super high because you're talking to someone who clearly is very
demonic,
but also like very convicted in what they believe, that, you know, you say the wrong thing to them or you disagree with them in the slightest, and then they're that much more prone to physical violence. Like, I understand that, and that's why I kind of don't want to go to those things anymore. But I almost like your approach better, and I like Michael Knowles' approach where he's just like calm and just letting them expose themselves.
Yeah.
Here's too another point that I didn't mention earlier that is a reason I don't get aggressive is when you're, I mean, yes, all of them are weak, beta men and women, but when you're around 30 of them, they could gang up on you pretty quick. And if you just push one of them, you're going to get surrounded by 30 and they're going to take you on. And I mean, I could probably take on 2 or 3, but I can't take on 30. And then one more piece is you never know who has a gun. I mean, you got the, what are they called? Antifa. You never know when they're when they're out there. Like, you never know who's concealed.
The good thing about Antifa with guns is that they're probably horrible with them. Whenever I see pictures of Antifa and guns, it's just like, I don't think these guys knows what they're doing. They just buy like the scariest maybe looking guns. Yeah. And then they always have plate carriers with no plates in it. They always have their handguns in weird positions, and they always have like these like super long barrel rifle with the totally wrong optic on it. So it's for optics. Yeah. Like, they use the wrong optics for optics.
Try to look tough.
Yeah, do that again.
To try to look tough.
But yeah. So, well, here's 2 questions specifically related to the last videos that you did. So, in the gay church, when that old guy pushed you,
I remember
you restrained yourself pretty well. Like, no one wants to knock out an old guy, but did you think about it for a second, or you're like, I'm not going to knock out an old guy? That's not a good look at all.
Yeah. So, of course, also with it being in a church, that was another huge reason. Like, if we're outside, as aggressive as he was, that honestly may have ended different.
It also came out of nowhere, too. Like, that guy.
I wasn't expecting that. I was just quoting scripture, and he just turned around. But
you get out of here.
He was so aggressive. It really caught me off guard. But I also knew that I respect my elders. And even if he doesn't respect me, I'm going to respect him, as hard as that is to say. And I know that if I would have pushed him back, I probably broke a bone when he fell. Yeah. Just being honest.
He could have broke his hip.
What a considerate young man Bo Dittle is.
I think so.
I let him do it, but that video was crazy. And there's so much reaction too coming from it. A bunch of the big Christian YouTubers have been reacting to it, and I'm so glad to see that.
Oh, really?
Yes. I really have actually started thinking about doing a new series called Exposing the Church, in which I go to these progressive churches that preach false doctrine and exposing what they teach to the audience.
Yeah, like the ones that say, I can't even say it, the ones that say God is trans. Like,
yeah. Well, who's the young guy, the LGBT pastor, Brandon something? He's always on TikTok. He looks like a little beaver, kind of. But he did a great debate with Jeff Younger from Apologia Studios that I watched a couple days ago, where they were just confronting him on the scripture. And he said, because Jeff Younger, they brought up Colossians, they brought up Leviticus, and obviously, like, when everyone talks about homosexuality being a sin, a lot of people bring up Leviticus, okay? Because they say, well, a man shall not lie with another man, and these were, quote unquote, old laws for tribes in Israel only. So they didn't apply to Egyptians, or they didn't apply to Syrians or anything like that. But you have writings in the 4 Gospels, clearly in Matthew and Colossians, in Peter's letters, where they specifically talk about sexual relationships outside of marriage. And you don't necessarily need to say homosexuality is a sin, because sexuality outside of the context of a marriage basically covers that. So a lot of people like to bring up like Old Covenant scripture when talking about homosexuality, but all we have to do is look at the Gospels. And I think like the guy wouldn't acknowledge, and what he said was actually this guy, Brandon or whatever, what's his last name that you're looking? Brandon Robertson. He said that he was a Moody Bible scholar. And I commented in that YouTube video, I was like, well, Dr. Michael Easley, the former president, would probably disagree with everything that you have to say. So do you think that it's worth it going to these churches trying to expose these people, knowing that they're not going to give you any room and knowing that they're not going to possibly even change their mind?
See, I disagree, because when I was at that church, there was this one black lady, and I kid you not, most all of the comments on the video is saying that she was like interested, right. And she was open, and she was asking me questions. She asked me, "What gospel are you talking about?" Like, you should know that answer. But it just shows you like she was genuinely wanting to know more. And I feel like she just was either raised into the church or brought into that church via a friend. And she could have been looking for the truth. I don't even think she was an LGBT person. I just think she was brought in. So, you know, someone like that, you never know what you would hear 1 second. And then it might be 10 years, but you could be driving down the road and then change your mind, be like, you know, maybe they are right. And then you start to change your mind. I mean, I saw, I'm friends with a guy who just recently turned to Christianity. He was a Buddhist. So all things are possible through God. So you just got to plant that seed and never give up. So, you know, I definitely don't think that it's 0% success rate. It might not be a high success rate, but if you convert one person to God, it's all worth it, in my opinion.
Would you do a series where it's like you're going to the church and trying to interview people, or would you maybe sit down with the lead pastor and try to have a conversation so it's not maybe so like antagonistic?
See, I tried to do both, and everyone commended me in the video for how calm I stayed throughout the video. And I did try and sit down with the female pastor, kind of ironic. And anyways,
that older lady, right?
Yeah. And I talked to her, and we were calm at first. I was calm the whole time. But then as soon as I opposed her teachings and she found that out, she wanted me gone. So it's kind of hard to do both. So while I was in there, I wanted to preach the good word, preach the real doctrine, but then also expose what she's teaching.
Yeah.
I saw the clip of that woman pastor. You were outside some rally and she wouldn't talk to you.
Yeah.
That was here, right?
Yeah, that was in Nashville.
Really? Yeah, I remember she just like would not even respond.
She was a Lutheran.
Yeah, she was Lutheran. It's crazy. I see a lot of Lutherans that are LGBT. Not saying that all of them are, but
I think statistically they are, right?
I think so. Like Lutherans, Methodists, Episcopalians, and not Pentecostals. What's the other one?
No. Not Anglican?
No, Anglican.
Anglican is fairly...
Anglican in England, I know, can be fairly, quote unquote, progressive. But I know some Anglicans here that they pretty much just have an English ordinate where it's just almost, it's pretty close to a Latin mass. It's just in English. So there's some, I think there are some, you know, in the comments, you guys correct me, but I think there might be some based Anglicans that are like one step away from Catholicism.
Well, there are some Anglicans that say things like they even put in their bio that they consider themselves to be in communion with the Catholic Church. So they're like very close. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So, okay. So yeah, because that clip, you were, what was the clip where the Lutheran was like, I'm not going to comment on scripture. I'm just here to support, come to my church. Yeah. What protest was that about?
That was the video that went viral. That was a video that's up to, it's close to 600,000.
Wait, that one was the one?
It's part of it, yeah.
Oh.
The one she's mentioning was on Instagram, and it's just a clip.
Right,
the full YouTube video is
the one that drove me insane was you at the Capitol with the doctors who supported abortion.
That was my favorite because, oh my gosh, I exposed them. Like the doctor admitted life begins at conception. And then her friend or whatever you want to call her, she was like, no, life doesn't begin at conception. And then I was like, well, that's funny because...
But were all of them... Sorry, I'm controlling the cameras just so that you guys know. So I was on both. I was on me for a little bit, but yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and it was... Okay, I've lost where I was.
The one doctor said life begins at conception. The other one said no.
Then the other one said no. And I said, well, that's hilarious because your doctor friend right here says life begins at conception. Not only is she your friend, but she's a doctor.
Right.
This one here?
Yeah, that's the one we're talking about right now. And then they start like arguing with each other.
Oh, they did?
Yeah. And she's like, well, I mean, if you want to go by the statistics and studies, then yes, life begins at conception. And so I like made this sly comment. I was like, they're educating each other.
Oh,
and
really?
then they just lashed out at me, and they were like, they threatened to sue me for filming them. And I was like, you're in a public building and this is a one-party consent state.
Correct. Yeah.
So it's pretty funny.
There didn't seem like there were many people there at that specific one in support of, right? Was that because a certain bill was, because Tennessee is quote unquote illegal in Tennessee now? Yeah. I know that there's still some provisions that allow for abortions in certain cases, but I know that
this was the Bill Lee State of the State. Where he's addressing the state, just like the State of the Union for Biden.
Right.
That's what this was.
Okay.
And then the quote-unquote abortion doctors were protesting. So I just talked to them, and then there's a huge page called the Tennessee Holler, which thank you to the Tennessee Holler, because that's where I get all of my protest information to go film.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
But anyways, he was there, so I got to chat with him. He's actually like, he's pretty intelligent. Like if you want a good Democrat, not that those exist, but he's pretty intelligent. So I actually enjoy talking to him. I wouldn't say we're close or good friends even, but me and him can hold civil conversation.
Here's a good question for Bo Dittle, because you've spoken to so many people. What do you think is if you could steel man abortion, right? If you can, do you know what steel man means? If you can make a case for an abortion or use, like, what do you think their best argument for an abortion is? What do you think it would be? Because I think Gina and I would probably agree on like how we would steel man abortion, but I'm just curious.
Okay, wait, I just want to make sure I understand what that means. So it means like if I could choose one argument that they have for abortion.
So basically, so you know how a straw man is just basically saying, if I said, oh, well, I like Chinese food, a straw man would be like, oh, so you don't like pizza?
Right.
So a steel man would be, okay, how if I say I'm totally against abortion because I believe life begins at conception, then steel manning the pro-abortion position would be trying to basically give one of their most popular arguments some substance.
I see what you're saying.
So I would say, I'll start off just to see if you agree. I would say that the best steel man argument for abortion was just to say that they would say that well, it's not a human being. That's what I think that their best argument would be. Yeah.
You think?
I think that's what they think.
I think that's one of their worst.
Yeah. I mean, that's just a very vague statement. I would say their best argument would be that the majority of abortions are in the before 12 weeks. That's what I would say.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. If you're
going to be consistent, that would be probably their best argument. Not that holds any ground, because all life is still intrinsically valuable.
Right. Yeah, I would say I think their best one is like if a woman is raped, which is the smallest percentage of abortions, but it's the only. I always say this when I talk about abortion on my Instagram page. I'm like, listen, and they're like, well, what about women who are raped? I'm like, okay, that is actually the only conversation I'm willing to have with you about abortion. If a woman is raped, then we can talk about it. I mean, obviously I'm still against it,
right.
But that's the only one where it's like, because our argument is always like, you can control your body. Like you do have full control of your body as a woman. You can choose who you have sex with, when you open your legs, what kind of contraception you use. But if you are raped and you get pregnant, like that takes away the bodily autonomy one. So I would say that's the only one that I like could possibly make sense, even though it still doesn't, because we believe that life begins at conception.
I hate that argument. The
rape or the
rape
human
argument.
Okay.
Because here's the thing. You know that they're wrong and they've conceded defeat as soon as they use the rape argument, because they're using a 0.1% argument to justify the other 99.9%.
Right.
And so with them, I will not even acknowledge it until they condemn the other 99.9. And I tell them that. As soon as they bring up rape, I'll say, I'll talk to you about that. But first, condemn the other 99.9. Because
the elected ones.
If you can't do that, then your argument for rape is irrelevant, because you're applying it to all instances.
That's what Michael Knowles says too. I've heard him say that. He was like, okay, we can talk about instances of rape, but can you at least concede that we should get rid of the elective ones? And they're like, no. And he's like, okay, then we're not going to talk about exceptions for rape.
Right. Why bring it up?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think with the whole human being thing, I think what I meant is personhood. We'd be like, well, it's not a person, because that brings it into muddy waters, because then you're talking about personhood and then you're talking about like a physical human being. And I think people, they tend to mix those up. It's a physical human being. You have to acknowledge that, because it's a living and growing human.
It's not a rabbit.
Right. But when they say, well, what about consciousness and all this thing and, being able to...
Or a heartbeat.
Right. Or something like that. But with personhood, it's like, okay, we can talk about personhood because that's kind of philosophical. When does a person become a person? A human being is a human being from the moment of conception. But, would you call someone in a coma a person? Yeah, of course you would, right?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, what's funny about their arguments is you could apply any of their arguments to someone on life support or in a coma.
Yeah.
And like they're not viable, they're not conscious, they could be brain dead. Like you could apply all of that to someone that's already lived.
Or like someone who has a pacemaker, because they're like, well, not till they have a heartbeat. You're like, okay, well, what about like old people that have a pacemaker? Can I murder them?
Yeah.
Because their heart doesn't fully beat on its own?
Yeah. No, it's very interesting. I wonder within the last year or so, because when was the overturning? Gosh,
June-ish
of
last year.
I was about to say, was that almost a year ago?
Yeah,
it doesn't feel
like it.
Wow,
it was almost a year ago. Yeah, I remember.
I wonder how many minds do you think have changed? Do you think we've changed many minds?
I think, you know what? I was looking on the Live Action Instagram page again the other day. I think they do a pretty good job, because I think the thing that Live Action does that most women don't understand is they show women what an abortion actually is. Because I'll admit, when I was someone who considered myself to be pro-choice, I was the kind of person who was like, I would never get an abortion, but it's up to a woman's choice. It's her body.
I hear that a lot.
I didn't know what an abortion was. Like, women think, I mean, not even just women, a lot of people just think that it's like, you go to the doctor and the baby goes away. Yeah. Like, you don't understand what an abortion process is. So I didn't know there was a difference between a surgical abortion and a medical abortion. So I didn't even know that, like, for very early abortions, you take a pill. And what that pill does is it literally starves the baby of nutrients. It makes your uterus stop producing, or it makes your body stop sending nutrients to the uterus. And so that little tiny baby shrivels up and dies. But then there's the surgical abortion, which is less common. They say, oh, we have most of our abortions before 12 weeks. But they take clamps and they go in.
They have to.
And they pull out the arms and the legs and crush the baby's skull. And so one thing that I think Live Action does really well is they ask people, do you know what an abortion is? And most of the time when they do man on the street videos, people are like, no, I think it's a woman's right to choose. And they're like, can I show you what an abortion is? And they give the person an iPad and they show it to them. And the woman is like, sometimes guys too, they're just totally horrified, because it is the most horrifying thing in the world. And there are videos of babies like swimming to the other end of their mommy's uterus to try and run away from the clamps that are killing them. And then you even have videos of, like, I don't know if you have videos, but they have simulations of, like, when you take the abortion pill, the nutrients are like ripped away from the uterus, so that baby shrivels up. And so I think that has actually done a good job at changing minds. I think Live Action, not that they're the only ones, but I do think that in the last year, organizations like Live Action have done a really good job.
I think Live Action's the strongest.
I think so too.
They do a really good job, like you said. They're not as confrontational, and they just are great at giving you the facts. And then you can make up your own mind. But I do think that they've done the best job at changing minds.
I think that's because Lila, and she's the founder and the head of the organization, so it really trickles down from her. If you watch any of your interviews, she always comes from a place of compassion. Always. Like, I remember probably a year and a half ago, maybe even 2 years ago, there was some viral video about abortion, and she went on Tucker's show. And I think Tucker was expecting her to, like, be angry, because it was something to be angry about. And she said, she's like, I'm sad. She's like, I'm really, really sad for women that this is what they've been given. She was like, I think this is a huge disservice to women. I think a lot of women have fallen prey to the abortion industry. And Tucker's face was like, he was shocked at her compassion. And I think that Live Action comes from a place of compassion. So instead of, like, being aggressive or trying to be really confrontational, they come from a place of, like, not only is this an act of violence against innocent children, it is a huge disservice, and in some ways an act of violence against women. And women don't understand, like, how much trauma they're going to have for the rest of their life. There was a TikToker, she's, obviously, like, this liberal girl, and she got on her TikTok and started crying. And she said, why isn't anyone talking about how abortions affect women? She's crying. She said, I had an abortion a month ago. And
yes, I saw. I think you posted this, right?
She said, I hate myself every day.
Really?
She said, I hate myself every day. She says, I'm not a child. I'm an adult. She's like, I had all the means to have a baby. She's like, and every day I come home and I'm just in tears. And she said, I didn't even take time off of work. She said, I got the abortion, and then I just went back to work, like, the next day. And then all the comments hundreds of comments of women. This woman, she's like, I'm 39. I had an abortion when I was 19 and it still haunts me every single day. Hundreds of comments. Women are like, I had an abortion 6 months ago. I can't sleep at night. Another woman's like, I had a baby and then it's like 3 months postpartum, I got pregnant, I got an abortion. I can't stop thinking about it. Like, these women are haunted. And I think what live action does a really good job at is exposing how the abortion industry preys on these women. And they lie to them. They don't give them full informed consent. They don't tell them what an abortion actually is. Like, you actually think you're going to go in and take a pill and like it just goes away. But even when you take the abortion pill, women will go home. They have like some of the worst pain ever. They cramp and they bleed for hours and hours and they pass the baby.
Mm-hmm.
They pass, even if you're like 4 or 5 weeks pregnant, you can see your baby in the toilet. And that is so traumatic. Yeah. Like, women don't even realize that's what it is. So live action does a good job at exposing that.
See, I think that speaks a lot to the rise in the suicide rates in the last couple years, and then attributing that to liberal policies and ideas. I mean, you have the abortion and how much they push it and push other women to have an abortion, but then also go to the LGBT and some of the stuff that they push. The LGBT is one of the highest suicide rates. You have to ask yourself, why is that? Like, everyone's like, oh, it's because my transgender child is not getting support for being transgender. Is that the real reason? Or is it because you're pushing transgenderism on them and you're leading them to gender dysphoria?
Not even that. Like, does your child have some sort of mental issue that you're not paying attention to? Like, Michael Knowles talked about this recently. He had someone come up to him after a speech he gave, and she was saying, I was feeling, let's say, sort of some sort of gender dysphoria, and I kept on getting sent to psychologist after psychologist, and thankfully I wasn't accepting any hormone blockers or whatever. But then I went to one psychologist who said, oh, you are experiencing a severe form of autism, so they diagnosed her as autistic. So once they started treating the autism, like the underlying, not the symptom, but the cause, the underlying cause of why she was feeling this way, she started to get better. But I have a question for you, Gina.
That's what Deborah So says. Yeah.
My question is, do you think women will ever wake up to see the damage that's being done to them? And I don't want to, I'm trying to think of a way to phrase this, by men, but I kind of just want to say is modern day secular liberal society is doing to them, as far as pushing things like abortion, as far as pushing them into the workforce, things like birth control, all of these harmful mechanisms that women are now starting to kind of wake up from. Do you think women are going to start to, as a whole or in bigger numbers, going to start to realize that they're actually getting pushed all this stuff that isn't beneficial for them in any way? And we're not trying to necessarily red pill women like the manosphere tries to do, like, you're a low tier woman, nothing like that. Be like, everything that you hear in secular society right now is not to your advantage. Birth control is not to your advantage. Abortion is not to your advantage.
Sexual promiscuity.
Yeah, like promiscuous sex is not to your advantage. High body count is not to your advantage. Being a force to be reckoned with in the workforce against males is not to your advantage. Like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that it's going to take two major things. First of all, I do think that women are starting to come around. I think one, for a lack of a better term, I think one huge red pill for women has been the birth control pill. I think a lot of women have realized that the birth control pill is one of the worst things ever distributed to them. Not only does it totally wreck their hormonal cycle, it takes away the hormonal cycle. It has severe issues with their mental health. And most of that comes from the gut issues because the birth control pill totally wrecks your gut. And we know that there's a lot of data showing a really interesting connection between your gut and your brain. Like, they say your gut is like your second brain. So a lot of women are coming to terms with what's happening with the pill, first of all. And I think that has made a lot of women look deeper into ways that they've been lied to. So I think it's starting, but I think it's going to take two major things to really have women understand what's happening on the whole. Number one, women respond really well to influence. So I think that, like, as much as we like to tease influencers and kind of say that the whole influencing game is, it's kind of stupid, women respond to social media influencers. They respond to women like Lila Rose. They respond to women like Amanda Ensing and Candace Owens. They respond to these women who are online that show that there is an alternative. Like, I've had women message me who say, wow, you showed me that there is an alternative. There is a different way to live that brings you happiness and fulfillment. It's not always easy, but I think women respond a lot to seeing these spheres of influence. Yeah. So number one, it's going to take from a cultural perspective, we need more women to step forward. And I think social media, it's a blessing and a curse, but it offers a tool for women to use to show other women that there's a different way. And secondly, we need strong men. Like women, the reason that women statistically support very progressive ideas like transgenderism and, women participating in porn and fat acceptance, like all of these very progressive ideologies, is because they cater to it's not necessarily our weakness, but our personality differences. Like we are more empathetic. We are more compassionate. We are more agreeable. We respond very well to narratives that are rooted in empathy, compassion, tolerance, and acceptance. So the left knows that, and they play to that, because when we're served the platter of transgenderism, what are we told? We're told that these people are mistreated, they're oppressed, they're marginalized, they just want to be who they are. That's all they want. So one of the things that women need is they need strong men to help them understand and to help them, to bring them more reason, to bring them more logic, and help them understand that these ideologies are not compassionate. They're actually the total opposite. So like the fat acceptance movement, for example, women accept it because they feel bad for fat women. They feel bad for these obese whales that are made fun of, that look ugly, that are unhealthy, can't get a high quality man. They feel bad for them. So they say, if we just accepted them and if we changed our beauty standards, maybe they wouldn't suffer as much. No, if we helped them and if we helped them get healthy and gave them the right information, then they wouldn't suffer as much because they wouldn't be obese. So this is why we need strong men, and we need other women who are willing to be a source of influence.
They got to get off the pill first. I heard women on the pill are more likely to be attracted to feminine men. Have you, did you talk about that? Or did I hear that from someone?
Yeah, I just did a reel on it probably a week or two ago. The pill changes your sexual preferences in many ways. It changes the way that you respond to pheromones. So women are much more likely to be attracted to men who have feminine voices, feminine facial features, feminine personalities.
Really?
So it's like, this is by design. Of course they want women to be attracted to feminine men, because then we're going to marry these feminine men. You're also more likely to file for divorce when you're on the pill.
Really?
There's a lot of things that happen
sense.
when you're on the pill. Even in some cases, there's a psychologist named Sarah Hill. She talks a lot about, she has a whole book on it. I forgot what it's called, but she talks about how the pill changes your brain chemistry. She says that she's heard so many stories of women who go on the pill and they feel gay. They're attracted to other women. Or she's heard of lesbians who go on the pill for acne or periods or whatever, and then all of a sudden they're like attracted to some dudes. It changes your sexual preferences, and that's by design.
Weird. Bo Dittle, can you talk about some of the men that you encounter at the rallies that you go to? Specifically, the one, I think in one of your most viral videos, where you're talking to this woman's husband and you're like, why are you here? And he's like, well, I'm just here to, love and support these people. And I just seem like, these guys don't seem like guys, man. Like they don't seem like real dudes. Like what do you think the average testosterone level of some of these guys are?
Well, the majority of them, they're just queer and they're gay.
Quite literally. Yeah.
Quite literally. Yeah. But then the other ones, I was about to use another word, but I'll stick to gay. The other ones are the ones that are so in love with their girl that they are appealing to the female's political ideology to impress them or something. They're the ones chasing after the woman instead of the woman chasing after the man, and they're having to cater to them. So, they're trying to say everything that the girl wants them to say, just so they can be seen as that hero or whatever. But in reality, they're just both being led to demise.
It's just weird. You don't see really too many manly men at these things.
No, you never will, because manly men are conservative.
Well, they aren't right. They aren't gay, but also they're also working. They're working in probably very hands-on jobs, or they at least have some sort of job to begin with. So they're not really. It's like you won't see any traditional high IQ women on any of these panel shows, like you said, just because they have actual families to take care of, and they're busy, right? So it's just like whenever I see any of these effeminate dudes at any of these rallies, I'm just like, you guys don't have anything better to do?
Yeah.
No leadership positions anywhere in your life?
But I mean, too, if you're going to call yourself a manly man, you're going to support the nuclear family, and you're probably going to be Christian. And both of those things goes against what these protests that I go to promote. So you're not going to find anyone out there that's Christian. They may call themselves Christians, but I mean, they're just going, following false teachers and false messages. I mean, but what amazes me is you will not find a single solid argument. Like earlier we were talking about solid arguments for abortion, even though there really aren't any. There certainly isn't any arguments that can say that you can be gay and a Christian. Like I've heard so many people try and argue that, and there's not even one that has any sort of backing.
Oh, wait. Well, here's the thing. Just like I think gay people can get married to members of the opposite sex, I think there can be gay Christians, right? You just can't be gay.
Regis.
Right, Regis. Right, yeah.
We told you about our friend Regis? Mm-mm. So our friend Regis, that's not his real name. That's his IDG name.
That's his anonymous name.
It's his anonymous name. He helped us. This concept, the show, sort of came from him. The three of us had all these thoughts about what to do, and he named the show. And he's not anybody that you'll ever find online. Like, obviously, Regis isn't even his real name, but he has been gay.
Yeah. For
most of his life, in the sense that he has been attracted to other men.
Exactly.
He's not attracted to women. He's also a tremendous artist. Mm-hmm. He's a screenwriter, very creative mind. He's like been a creative director for a lot of different people, and he's created some really incredible art. And he believes that, like, he's celibate. Mm-hmm. So he does not, he does not act
so much
on
respect to him.
He doesn't act on his urges. Mm-hmm. And he believes that homosexual sex is a sin. Mm-hmm. He believes that gay people should not get, quote, married. He believes they should not have any opportunity to adopt. He actually believes that men who struggle with homosexual urges, they have a unique place in society. Mm-hmm. One of those places is in the faith, like as a priest or someone who can really work on spiritually, like calming down those urges and focus their life on something different, or even in art, like in places of art. He talks about, like, Michelangelo was a gay dude who directed all of his, I don't know, what do you want to say, like all of his urges into his art and created some of the most beautiful art in the world ever, timeless art. So his take is really interesting because he is kind of like, I wouldn't even call him a gay Christian, but he is a Christian who has struggled with homosexual desire his entire life, but he is celibate.
And there's a huge difference. That's what people don't understand. There's a huge difference between struggling with your sin and acting in your sin. And to me, that's
or being proud in your sin.
Yes,
right.
Because pride's an abomination to God. Mm-hmm. And so for me, that's what makes the LGBT like so different, and why I feel so called to talk about it is, it's one thing if you struggle with drinking, but if you at least acknowledge it's a sin. But then these homosexuals, they take pride in it. They have a festival every year called Pride. Mm-hmm. Pride is an abomination to God. They refuse to acknowledge that it's wrong. And not only do they refuse to acknowledge it, but they promote it to other people to follow in these dark paths of sin. 1 Corinthians 6:9, it talks about homosexuality directly, but it also talks about adultery, drunkards, idolaters. So I'm not saying that homosexuals are these terrible people, but when you refuse to acknowledge that it's a sin, that's what makes it a little bit different.
Right. It's very interesting. I can understand what Michelangelo went through in a very different and not as extreme sort of way. Haven't looked at porn for months and months. I'm really I'm proud of that, but also, but with other things that single guys probably struggle with a lot, like Gavin was talking about, no wanks and stuff like that, there's always that desire, especially like when I'm alone in the house or something, right? Something like that. There's always that desire.
You're gonna have a tough week.
Yeah, I know, right?
When the girls are gone.
Right? No, but it's good because I have other things to focus on. But when you focus on, let's say, when you focus on God, and where those things become a big, what's the word when you're being... something's attracting you to do something.
Temptation,
right? When I'm tempted to do something, it's usually I'm in front of a computer. It's almost like the devil's whispering in my ear. You know, just do it. You'll be happy. It'll feel good.
Right.
I have a picture of Christ on my wall right there, and I look at that, but I can't do that in front of Christ.
No way.
I can't go do that in the bathroom. I know he's following me. I can't do that in the bedroom. He's following me. So it's like, if you're able to refocus that energy and, do something positive with it, like Michelangelo, or let's say Christopher Yuan or Regis or something like that, I think it's very powerful that if a lot of people can do that, acknowledge it first, acknowledge I have this problem. I have this problem with sin, but, God help me with that. put a reminder, put a cross on your wall or something like that.
And going back to Christopher Yuan, you mentioned him. We've had him on the show. Christopher Yuan is a pastor who lived as a gay man in his 20s, but he was actually sent to prison for selling drugs and came to Christ in prison. And then he devoted the rest of his life to God. And he wrote a book called Holy Sexuality. And it talks about how biblically sexual sin is sexual sin. So like watching porn, premarital sex, is a sexual sin just as much as homosexual sex is. But one of the biggest differences culturally, like you said, is that homosexuality is celebrated.
Yeah.
But then there's another layer that's like, why do so many Christian parents, they're like okay with their kids, with their child moving in with their boyfriend before they get married, like they're okay with that, but then they turn around and condemn homosexuality. It's like, well, you're allowing and encouraging your daughter or your son to live in sin, and yet your sexual sin, and then you're turning around and condemning another sexual sin. So I think as a culture, we need to definitely keep fighting against the LGBT agenda, but I think we also need to be fighting just as much against sexual sin in general. Here's
a question, Bo Dittle. Sorry, I love saying it. Nick Fuentes recently said he doesn't consider himself a conservative or even a traditionalist. What he considers himself and what he would probably like to call himself is a Christian futurist. How do you feel about something like that?
I didn't even hear that.
Christian futurist is basically Jesus was here before us, he is here with us now, and he will be here with us in the future. And what we should do is just strive to live like him and to have a society who lives like him. So conservatives, big tent, all these other issues that they don't really act conservatively on, I wouldn't align myself with them. Traditionalists, it's like, okay, what tradition? Yeah. What sort of history do we want to advocate for? Does history repeat itself or not? So Christian futurist is like, no, strive for Christ the whole way. How do you feel about something like that?
I see it here on Telegram. I'll read you the quote and then you can answer. He says, I don't call myself a conservative anymore. I don't call myself even a traditionalist because history doesn't repeat. But I would call myself something like a Christian futurist instead, because Jesus Christ was our past before any of us were born or conceived. Jesus Christ is our present now, and Jesus Christ is our future after we die on earth. That's a quote from his speech.
Which was really, really good.
So I won't talk about Nick directly, but I will talk about America First and his organization, because all of them consider themselves Christians first. And I have relationships with many of them, but I will just say this. I see a lot of hate coming from them too. And I feel like as Christians, one of the most used words in the Bible is love. Love's used over 500 times. I would say that if you're going to consider yourself a Christian futurist, you need to show your love just as much as you show the judgment. Not saying that judgment is wrong. In Ecclesiastes, it talks about judgment, talks about judgment a lot. But you also need to talk about love. And so, yeah, that's what I would say in acknowledgement of the tweet. Nothing against them, but just a little critique.
Oh, no, well, I was just talking about like the idea of a Christian futurist, like not to label oneself like a conservative or a traditionalist, but like Christian futurist. Oh, like if you heard that on the street from someone, like if you said, well, do you align yourself as a Democrat or Republican? And they said, no, I'm a Christian futurist. Like, how would that strike you?
I mean, I'd be interested to learn more about it. I don't really understand what he means by futurist, because God's the same yesterday, today, and forever. So what does he mean by futurist?
Probably to lead the country for the future under Christ.
Well, I mean,
like Christian nationalist better.
Christian nationalist.
I guess it's kind of the same.
I like futurist because it's cool. It just sounds cool.
That's one word to describe it.
Nick does say cool things.
Yeah.
It kind of throws me off a little bit, though. I wouldn't really know what someone would mean by saying I'm
more turned off by the word conservative nowadays.
I hate conservatives. Bryson and I text all the time about how much we hate conservatives.
Yeah.
Oh, they suck.
I would say more Republicans. Like conservatives, I feel like a little bit better. Traditional conservatism.
Because there are very few of those now.
But I mean, here's the thing: how can we talk about conservatism if at CPAC they have they had the drag queen at CPAC?
Drag queen.
Oh yeah, and Nick got kicked out.
Well, yeah, not even that. Apart from that, because we know Nick's gonna get kicked out of a lot of things, but just like
they let a drag queen in.
That's what I'm saying. It's like what does conservatism mean to anyone?
See, let me make this point.
Low taxes and small government.
Yeah.
If you're gonna kick out Nick of CPAC for being too far to the right, you also need to kick out a drag queen for being too far to the left. Like, you got to have some middle of the row or let them both in. You know, it makes no point to call yourself.
100% let them both in. Yeah,
exactly. If you call yourselves conservatives, then sure, let someone far to the conservative spectrum and not so far to the conservative spectrum. Let them both in, or let neither of them in.
Yeah, I mean, I tweeted, I said, listen, the fact that CPAC has allowed in a drag queen but has banned Nick it's the perfect snapshot of why so many people on the right are fed up with mainstream conservatism.
It speaks to everything of what the conservative party is today.
Yes,
and it really speaks as to why we're in the direction we're in. We're going downwards. And you have to ask yourself why. Well, the answer is right in front of you.
Yeah, and that's why a lot of young conservatives don't even call themselves conservatives anymore, and they hate the mainstream conservative movement. And when I tweeted that, there was a couple people, like, I guess on the right, who were like, Nick Fuentes is a piece of trash. And I'm like, you're proving my point.
Right, yeah.
You guys are doing, we've said this so many times, I'm sick of saying it. You guys are doing the same exact thing to Nick as the left did to Trump. And you spent the last 8-9 years complaining about what they did to Trump. Like, you guys are doing the same exact thing to Nick. Look, I'm not saying they have to agree with everything he says, but to just say that someone was like, he's a racist weasel. I'm like, okay, CNN.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, this is why there are so many young conservatives who hate the current conservative movement.
Someone made a really interesting post on Instagram. I think it was like Jen Zelot or someone like that, like a memer who is just talking about a lot of the infighting within conservatism. Like, guys, you guys are missing the point, and the left is loving this right now. We're going to do some questions. This is from Sean Munson 9. It's funny because he says, does Bo have any relationship with Vic? It's kind of funny.
With Nick?
Yeah.
I mean, I talked to him at CPAC. Like, we're cool. He knows who I am.
Wait, so were you there this year?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you saw him.
Yeah. I wouldn't consider myself a groiper,
right?
But I mean, you know, we're cool, and I support a lot of his messaging.
Okay, cool. This is from I Am Chucky version 2.0. Do you know who this is? Let Bo know his obsession with the LGBT community is a sign he's begging to come out.
That's hilarious. No, he just needs to come out and find the Lord. Find the Lord.
So you don't know who that is?
Is this like a hater that always...
He's someone... I actually think he'd be pretty cool with me if we ever met. But he's followed me since TikTok. Back when I first got banned, like many years ago, 2 years ago. And he's just always been a troll of mine. So.
Isn't it funny how you'll always have a small handful of trolls that follow every single thing you do, and they claim to hate you, but Sneeko...
We have weird women that do that.
Sneeko tweeted this. He was like, if you don't like someone and you follow everything that they do, you are a fan.
I get it all the time.
He's a fan of yours. And like, I have a couple people in my DMs too that they watch my stories every single day and they hate me. I'm like, I'm the reason you get out of bed in the morning. Like, I give you a reason to pick up your phone. You love me. And it's the same with you. Like, I'm sure you have trolls that love you, but they act like they hate you. It's like, these are your biggest fans. It's so bizarre to me. I just don't know, like, how... I don't know. I don't get that mentality. It's like you hate someone so much that you watch everything they do.
Well, it's another form of, wouldn't it be like another form of like a dopamine hit? Like instead of like a happiness, like instead of a happy chemical reaction, you're getting this hateful chemical reaction that
but it's the same dopamine.
Acts, right, exactly. Yeah, maybe
it's
something
odd how
like
common
that.
It is too. Like, it's not like there's just one person. Like, you know, I probably could name off 10 to 15 people that are constantly in my DMs that are commenting on all my videos that are sticking around, giving me the view and the support. Yeah. But yet they claim
they give all the engagement. Like, these people comment on my stories every day.
What I love the most about them is when you do something that the majority of the people are going to disagree with, it just sparks engagement because people are going to start arguing. So they're helping me out so much and they have no clue.
Oh yeah, I don't mind the arguing within the comments. It's like when
please do it.
It's because I think I've maybe commented in plenty of posts, which I'm doing pretty well for Lent now, because I realized what I've given up was negative comments on social media for Lent. So what I've done now is if I will comment something that I think is negative, I frame it in a positive way. If that makes any sense. So I just want to be like, well, this comment's gay. And I just be like, well, I don't think this comment has really been thought out, but God bless you. And I'll say things like that. So it's not negative.
Right.
It's just whatever it is. But I've never DM'd a stranger to be like, I hate you.
Yeah.
Like, it's very weird to say anything like sarcastic.
They do it every day.
I know, it's weird,
They do it to
right?
you too, right? Like, all the time. I'm sure it's weird.
Okay, another question. This is from, there are a couple of questions like this, so I'll just ask you this. What denomination are you, and are you actively going to church?
Yeah, I'm Protestant. I consider myself non-denominational. Free Will Baptist is the church I go to, but I would say I'm more non-denominational.
Okay.
I'm of the Protestant branch, though.
Okay. I had a really interesting discussion with a Southern Baptist who says that, so there's obviously like I think there are like thousands of different Baptist denominations under Baptist, but there's a Southern Baptist, and then there's just Baptists. And then there's one of them who will wash feet. Like there's like feet washing is a big part of it. And then there are other Baptists who don't do the feet washing. Like this is really interesting how you guys have like a lot of like different things that you do within the own denomination. Yeah. I don't know.
There's so many different methods within the different denominations. I mean, I've done feet washing before, but then like you said, I know people that don't. There's just so many ideas within different branches and denominations.
Have you ever given thought to joining the Catholic Church?
I've not, but I've been studying Catholicism a lot.
Yeah. What do you think?
I have a couple objections. My first objection is the Mary aspect. I believe in praying straight to God, not through Mary. I don't like calling your priest father.
Oh, well, it's an option. We're not required to. We're not required to pray to Mary. Yeah, the rosary.
Well, I mean, for instance, at March for Life.
Give this to Bo and let me know. I want to know how you feel when you hold that. Let's see. What is your initial reaction when you see that?
It's Catholic, that's for sure. I mean, if someone handed me this, I would just say it's a Catholic for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, what's great about the Rosary is that obviously you're saying 10 Hail Marys per decade, and there are 5 decades on there. But there are other prayers involved, and a lot of people the problems that they have with saying, like, let's say prayers to Mary or saying the Rosary is they like to acknowledge Matthew 16, I think, when Jesus tells his disciples, not to pray repetitively. And what is misunderstood from context, and John Doyle's No Context called me a very ignorant scholar, even though I never claimed to be this incredible Bible scholar, even like a good Catholic.
I think the way you explained it.
Yeah, I think he was mad at something that he was like, "Where's Gina? Like, this show sucks. You suck. You think like you're a political like heavyweight, but you're not. Like, stick to music and photography." And I was like, I never claimed to be like William Buckley. Like, I never claimed to be. But anyway, so when we pray the Rosary, there are other prayers. We say the Our Father, we say the Hail Mary, and there's the prayer to Mary at the end. And there's a prayer to God at the end. So you're not just specifically saying these like mindless repetitive prayers, because you have to actually be deep in thought and in deep complication while you're praying this. Like a lot of like the Jews who pray at the Wailing Wall, they do the rocking thing and they're just kind of like bumbling the same prayer stuff. And I think like you would know that Jesus was referencing people who pray loudly for recognition from other people, to notice that they're praying, to notice that they're being somewhat pious, and also people who are just blabbering. Right? You're just saying things. I think it has to do with like a lot of like pagan gibberish rituals and stuff like that. Gibberish. So the objection that I've always had to the Rosary of just saying, well, you're just praying straight to Mary. It's like, well, no, well,
you're praying through Mary.
We're praying.
I acknowledge you're not praying to Mary. I acknowledge that. Yeah. I just don't. I feel like for Christians, we should go straight to the source. We should go straight to God. And then, I don't know, you can disagree with this. I don't want to in any way be offensive, but I see idolatry a lot. I see a lot of idolatry. And it may not be intentional, but like the Mary aspect, I just see a lot of it is idolatry.
Well, how do you feel about this? When you see, let's say, a funeral ceremony for a soldier, what happens there? They fold the flag. It's that could almost be idolatry in a way where if you're looking at it from an outside perspective, you're saying there's a lot of care, there's a lot of respect, and there's a lot of contemplation within this act. They're folding the flag so carefully. Every seam has to be perfect. The way that they present it to the mourning widow, the way that they do the 7-gun salute at the end. I think that's seen more as reverence and more as respect, because, they're not worshiping this flag. Right. The flag is a symbol. And the way that I see it is that Jesus came through Mary physically into the world. So if anything, I think we can find our way to Jesus through Mary. That's just one way that we can choose to honor God, is by honoring her mother.
But I mean, if you believe in the Trinity,
God is the woman.
If you believe in the Trinity and God being, or Jesus being all powerful, then I just don't see why you wouldn't go straight to the source. Why would you take like a detour through Mary? That's just kind of like one of my objections.
Oh, I see. I get that. I understand that.
Too, when I was Protestant.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
That was one of mine. Yeah.
I don't know. I just find it like it's a weird thing, and I'm sure you would probably feel like the same way about like saints. Like, why pray to saints when you can pray to
that's another.
Do you pray for your friends, or would you ask a friend to pray for you?
I've heard this argument.
Right, like
I know the
it's just like,
you're
why don't you
to.
ask someone who's in communion with God? Why don't you bring it to God, directly to God or something like that? I don't know. I feel the reverence. Mother Mary and Catholics, I think it's just because there's a lot of history as far as miracles with Mary that have happened within the last 1,000 years.
Well, I think one of the big differences too is because in the Orthodox faith, we believe that Mary lived a sinless life. I think that's the Catholic teaching as well.
Yeah.
So she is revered because so the Orthodox prayer is, without defilement, you gave birth to God the Word. So she remained a virgin her entire life, and she was sinless her entire life. And when I was Protestant too, that was one thing that I really took issue with. And it's one of those things where we talked about this on a few episodes ago. You don't really understand why you do it until you start doing it. Like, I love praying to Mother Mary. We say Theotokos in the Orthodox faith. I love it. It's like every day, 3 times a day. And I think as a woman, especially too, like, you think, like, I hold my daughter and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, this woman lived a sinless life and she gave birth to God.
Right.
And she had to watch him live a sinless life and be crucified.
I think it's also a form of thanksgiving. Like, I say the rosary, and I always end my rosary, because there are 2 prayers that end the rosary. But after the rosary is done, I pray to God. So it's like, I think of my mother, and I'm just like, thank you, Mom, for giving life to me. Thank you for being my mother. So I sort of try to echo that with the Mother of God. So it's not that I do have prayers that go straight to God, but then I do also want to honor his mother as well.
Right.
So it's not a blind devotion to without any sort of contemplation otherwise.
Where do you see the fine line being between worshiping Mary and honoring Mary?
Well, the fine line, I think, because, our services aren't around Mary.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
right.
we have, let's say, we'll have feast days. So there'll be feast days of the Assumption of Mary, or the Ascension of Mary into heaven. There'll be a feast days of the Annunciation to Mary, and plenty of other feast days regarding saints who had miracles done regarding Mary. And like, let's say you have the Virgin of Guadalupe in Mexico. It's like one of the most famous images of Mary, which I'm sure that you've seen, is Mary appeared to, I forget this guy's name. Mary appeared to this guy in the 1500s in Mexico and told him, build this, we want you to build this church here on top of this hill, and the church is built and all this kind of stuff. And, the Virgin of Guadalupe is, one of the most famous visual representations of Mary in the world. And I think what a lot of people who are outside of that is when they see like parades in a lot of these like Latin American cities, or even in the States, especially big with Italians when they do parades on certain feast days, is you'll see, let's say, like a statue of Mary being held with roses adorned all over it and people lining the streets and see it. And I think that they might get that confused with idolatry rather than just saying, we want you to see this image, not her. To worship it, but look how much we love her. Like, that's what I think it is, maybe. So I don't know.
Within other, I want to say religions, but Mormonism, Jehovah's Witnesses, what would you consider those? Would you consider them Christians? Would you consider Protestants Christians?
Well, I think you would almost have to like consider a Protestant a Christian.
Well, I mean,
right?
I'll tell you because I was just listening to this. So the last Catholic teaching on Protestants, because it used to be that they thought that they were heretics who were damned.
Right.
But I think it was Vatican II, they call Protestants separated brethren.
Yeah.
So that's the Catholic teaching. The Orthodox teaching has always remained the same. It's very similar. It's that it's not that the Holy Spirit is not with you. It's not that you don't believe that Christ came and lived a sinless life and died to atone for everyone's sins and was raised on the 3rd day. But there's just a lot missing. I mean, I'm going to say from an Orthodox perspective, there's just a lot missing, that we want Protestants to participate in the blood and the body of Christ, in the church, in the fullness of the faith that Christ left when he left the earth.
Just because there's so many disagreements within Protestant denominations that they don't agree on even something like the Eucharist. You know, they don't all agree. We believe that Jesus is present physically in the body and blood of
You
Christ.
literally eat God,
right?
as
You
Brian
literally, right?
says.
You eat God. You eat God, and some denominations are like, no, it's just a symbol. Others are like, no, well, there is this sort of like weird metaphysical presence, but it's not a real physical presence. And then, so I think on that, I don't know like where they would be able to join with us. But Jehovah's Witnesses, I don't think they're Christians.
Yeah.
I don't think they're Christians because
Oh
I
my
don't even think they
gosh.
believe in.
They don't believe
what's
in the
their
Holy
core-
Trinity.
I actually know.
Yeah, not even that.
They don't
but-
believe in the Holy Trinity.
So yeah, Jehovah's Witnesses, they don't believe that Jesus is God.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
They also refuse
my.
to call him Jesus, Lord,
right.
What do they call him?
Father, Jehovah.
Jehovah, yeah.
That's the only thing they'll call him is Jehovah. They believe that good works is a must to get to heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
And
Part of it.
Part of it. Ephesians 8 clearly says that Ephesians 8 clearly says that salvation alone is how you get to heaven, not through good
I
works.
think a lot of people, and what I've been seeing lately is a lot of people are having confusion around salvation and things like grace and things like that. So salvation comes from, I believe, faith, grace, and works, right? You know what I mean? If you're saying being salvation through grace alone doesn't really make much sense to me. But when I hear salvation through faith and works, I believe that the two of them have to be compatible and in unison with each other.
No, I feel like if you're saved, you're going to do good works.
Right,
But
right.
good works
the
is not-
saving is the push to do the good works.
do you believe in once saved, always saved?
I go back and forth on that. I can see arguments for both, and I really don't want to, because I'm still very much so on my spiritual journey and coming to those conclusions.
We
Something
three are.
especially.
Gina is.
Oh, yeah.
I
I am.
We are not like authorities on
I'm
any
a
of this
very,
stuff whatsoever.
very young. I'm a little baby. I'm not even a catechumen yet in Orthodox Church.
That's something I definitely don't want to speak on because I can see both arguments, and another one's the Calvinism versus Arminianism.
Mm-hmm.
I can go back and forth on that. Like, are we free will or are we predestined?
Right.
Both arguments you can see scripturally.
Okay.
So, that's something else. But I mean, something that I'm pretty strong on is good works not getting you to heaven. and
Well,
being by
here's a
salvation
follow-up
alone.
question to that then. How many years have you been a Christian?
I've been raised Christian
Okay.
my whole life. However, I will say in the last
From
couple
Marco.
months, I've been taking an extra step. Everything I'm doing just really shows the demonic nature of the world. And, John 15:18, if the world hates you, just remember it hated me first.
Mm-hmm.
And so, me being in opposition of the world shows that I'm of God. And so I want to be more spiritually mature going into these things. So, instead of just going to church, I also do youth. I'm a youth leader on Wednesday nights and on Sundays. So I'm really just trying to take that extra step and getting right with the Lord, and not just being with Him and calling myself a Christian, but also knowing everything that I need to know to preach and get more people into the kingdom of God.
Do you believe the devil's real?
Oh, 100%. You can't call yourself a Christian
Right.
and not say the devil's
Let
real.
me talk to you about something because I know you're probably going to disagree with the idea of confession.
No, not necessarily.
Not necessarily?
What I disagree with is going to a priest. We should all repent and turn away of our sins, confess our sins.
Right.
But I feel like, and two, calling him Father. The Bible says we should only call God our Father.
Do you call your
not a
dad
priest. Well, I'm not going to be like.
Do you call your dad dad?
Owned, based. Sorry. No, I'm kidding.
Do you call your dad dad?
Well, here's the thing that I found interesting, and I'm probably I'm confessing it publicly, but I will confess it to a priest as well. Wasn't able to make it on Thursday night. Our church during Lent they were going to have several priests in the church at once, hearing multiple confessions, which I thought was nice because one priest you have to wait on a line. No one wants to wait on a line.
We do that on the Saturday.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Church, yeah.
But asking if the devil's real, and I know that the devil's real because just a couple nights ago where our daughter was just having the worst tantrum in bed, like the worst one. And, we co-sleep. And I tried to ignore it the best I can. Like I tried to ignore it. And then I snapped and I screamed and I looked her, and just knowing to make her feel bad because your dad feels bad. You know what I mean? And then after it, I turned around and I kind of this is what I want to confess to the priest. I kind of felt like the devil was smiling because he succeeded in making me do that to my daughter. Does that make any sense? Looking back on it, I didn't feel it in the moment, but looking back on it, I was kind of like, that's like the devil whispering, just yell at her. You want to yell at her. And I finally did. And he's like, that's right. You feel a little bit better now, right? Don't you? Now you can go to bed. And it's kind of weird because she did fall asleep after I yelled at her, but I think it was because from like crying excessively for like an extra 2 minutes, and that took like, you know, a lot of energy from her. But I don't know, like I can see like the demonic presence in people when it comes to murdering their babies, when it comes to telling other people they should cut off their bodies. Like I kind of feel the devil at work, and it doesn't seem like it's a stretch or in my mind at all. Thoughts?
No, I agree. I mean, I think that there's a lot of people often confuse saying that only like people that are possessed have demons in them. But no, I mean, there's a lot of people that have demons in them. People that you wouldn't even think have demons, they do. You know, they struggle. So no, I completely understand what you're saying.
Wait, how do you feel about exorcists?
In what regard?
Like the job of an exorcist in, let's say, like the Catholic Church.
Yeah. I mean,
necessary.
It's very necessary. I see it all the time. Are you familiar with Pastor Locke?
No.
You know Greg Locke, guy in Mount Juliet who refused to close his church.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
he preaches like he preaches like a black pastor a little bit.
Was he arrested?
Amazing. No,
he wasn't arrested. No, he did the loophole where he created a huge tent outside and put the church in there.
And he still preaches out of that church. Me and him are pretty close. I go to his church quite a bit. And anyways, he's coming out with a new movie this Monday. It comes out in all theaters, and it's on deliverance and him casting out demons.
Really? Oh, interesting.
So you guys should definitely watch. It's called Come Out in Jesus' Name.
Does he speak in tongues?
Does he speak in tongues? I've never heard him speak in tongues.
I
No.
wonder.
But I mean, there's a lot of people.
Well, when they throw the jackets at people and everyone falls down, that's absolutely ridiculous, and that's a grift.
Yeah.
I assume most of that stuff. Russell Crowe's coming out with a movie where he plays an exorcist.
Russell Crowe?
Based on a true story. Yeah.
Wow.
Cool, right? Russell Crowe.
That's good.
Here's a good question because we got to have to wrap up.
Yeah, let's do it.
Where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years career-wise, Bo Dittle?
Career-wise.
How old are you again, Bo Dittle?
20.
What?
Whoa, so in 10 years, you're going to be 30? Where do you see yourself
You could
career-wise?
be his
Like,
dad.
I could be, literally.
You could be Bo Diddle's
I could
dad.
be your dad. Do you want to be still doing man on the street stuff? Do you want to do the stuff where you're talking about, you know, possibly like getting a deal with a media company? Or
Oh my gosh, he's
So-
20. I feel so old.
seriously,
This is my dream doing this. Growing up, it's what I wanted to do. I just never thought I could do it. But I'm a huge believer in chase your dreams and success will follow. So my end goal is to get under contract, be with a big media company in which I can do this more professionally than I already am. But, you know, I'm not going to stop doing this independent if that's the only way I can do it. I'm going to continue doing it, growing my platform. But, you know, in 15 to 20 years, I'd eventually like to start doing some ministry work, maybe even open up my own church and continue shedding the light for the Lord. Because I'm seeing myself more and more using biblical arguments to refute these people as opposed to quote unquote conservative arguments. So, you know, I'm still seeing my walk with the Lord grow more and more every day. So I'll probably take a path towards Christianity even more on my platform in the future.
Do you have a lady, Bo Diddle?
I do not. I'm so picky when it comes to...
I saw a post of someone that I was like, is this his lady? But I don't think it is.
Oh, wow.
I'm so picky. I won't settle for anything but like my dream girl. So
Would you be celibate until marriage?
oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yes, still celibate.
Nice, dude.
Nice.
We like that, Bo Dittle. We like Bo Dittle.
Very nice.
Bo Dittle, thank you for coming. Please keep on doing the videos that you're doing. I think they're very important. I think it's very admirable, the thing that you do. And even though I'm giving you minutes at a time on YouTube, the support is still there. Like I said, you do what a lot of us probably can't and shouldn't do. So I want to thank you for doing that, and I look forward to joining you and Gabe to get the best burger in Nashville next week.
I'm looking forward to it. Thank you guys for having me on.
We're glad you're doing great, Bo Diddle.
doing
Plug
great.
yourself, obviously.
Yeah,
plug yourself.
where to find you?
Yeah, Bo Diddle on Instagram and YouTube, and then please take a look at The Trenches. It's having massive success right now. I'm excited to see where it'll be a year from now, so hop on early. We're about to hit 20,000 subscribers. Was it 1,000 subscribers less than a week ago?
Nice.
Dang.
That's crazy growth. Also, you did want to talk about, unless you wanted to tell people where you're going to be, possibly with hockey.
Yes, April 12th, guys. If try to look at the camera. Where's the camera?
That camera.
April 12th at Bridgestone Arena. Nashville Predators are hosting Pride Night. So I'm working with IDG Memes to try and put together a little event, shedding a light on what's going on in that arena. It'll be exposing children to the LGBT, probably gonna have like some drag performances. So if you guys want to get involved, meet me April 12th outside of Bridgestone Arena at the very front. I look forward to it.
We'll be with them. Isn't that supposed to be illegal now? If there's any drag shows going on in there?
Well, you're probably right. So I doubt there will be a drag performance, but there it is going to be LGBT. The Preds are having like fag flags on on their jerseys. And so yeah, April 12th, be there.
All right, guys, we'll see you later. Have a great weekend. You're doing great.
You're doing great.